Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. This is the Week in Italian Startup, where Nicolò and I will explore the latest news happening in the Italian tech ecosystem. And we have like a good number of things happening last week. It's a very dense newsletter that you sent. So again, this podcast is based on Nicolò's work of putting together what has been happening across different verticals, and you can subscribe to his newsletter. Follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcast. All the episodes will be available there. So without further ado, let us start with one of the biggest deal, WeRoad raising 13.5 million. In a mix of equity and debt.
Yep. Hello, Jack. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Yes, WeRoad is one of the main news from the week. It's actually debt and equity and convertible. It's all a mix of everything. Deal, which altogether amounts to 13.5 million euros. WeRoad is a travel startup. That is a signal that maybe the market will restart. Actually, it's restarting. It started before this summer.
Yeah.
The equity part of the deal comes from a crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah.
Which from the article was coming from the Intesa Sanpaolo private banking.
Exactly.
Group. So not pure retail.
Yeah.
These are a bit more sophisticated investors.
Yeah, what is interesting is exactly that. So Back to Work is an equity crowdfunding platform, but it's backed by Intesa. So it's basically Intesa trying to conquer the space where there are small retail investors willing to invest in high-tech companies, and having an equity crowdfunding platform that should do the trick. So but it was a big raise still. They apparently did like a vehicle, which is FinRoad. It's an investment vehicle, and so all the raise was done through that vehicle on the platform. So it's a very interesting way to structure these kind of deals.
And it's actually a quite clever way to structure a crowdfunding campaign. One of the most difficult things that happen after campaigns is the handling of your cap table. If you raise money from many smaller shareholders, then it's a bit more complicated to handle your shareholder assembly in particular. Think about running after all of them if you need to sign or to pursue any special extraordinary operation. So having all of them together in a vehicle with maybe a representative, a single person representing the vehicle in your startup, that's a smart move if you can
absolutely
do it.
Yeah, I mean, for club deal, that's definitely one way that people are trying to experiment, especially in Italy, doing like SPV. What is in America is called an SPV. So essentially, it's the same dynamic, but through a platform and not through just a general club deal that would do it by itself on a private basis. So that's very interesting way to structure that. Fantastic. All right.
Congrats to WeRoad.
Yeah. Wine experience and the wine sector. So a very interesting play here. Essentially now it's Divinea. Divinea is a platform that has been promoting wine events across different interests in different industries. I think there are two interesting things here. One is the fact that a lot of wineries are actually investing in the round as like pretty known wine brands. So you can see the opening of probably the new generation sort of diversifying in the future of the wine market. And then the second aspect is that they went past the events and the promotion of the wine experience, and they're also playing in the CRM space. So Divinea also is active in the space of managing clients and customer for the winery. So here we have a startup which started with events and then is playing a few angles, and it's been trying to grow in different, like on a parallel route, if you will. What do you think, Nico?
Mm-hmm. Well, from reading the article, the bit that was most striking to me is that there is a quote from a report by Silicon Valley Bank saying that in the USA, wineries sell on average 67% of their wines directly to final consumers. In Italy, just 10%. So there's a huge piece of market to be taken there, probably. And this is essentially, I would say, the core strategy of Divinea. So supporting wine labels to get direct access to final consumers, retail customers.
Yeah, this is a disruption of the value chain and the connection to clients. Also driven by everything that is happening in the subscription models. So you keep, seeing in the market companies starting subscription-based businesses with wine, with whiskey, with coffee, and so it's really like a piece-by-piece subscription, like a way of consuming this kind of like luxury goods. It's very, very interesting.
I've just seen a startup doing that for mineral water.
What?
For your information.
So I can taste different mineral waters on a subscription.
Well, it's exactly. That's awesome. More or less what I meant. Well, if you think about it, historically, my grandmother at least had this Ape car with all the mineral waters, distributing them door by door. So that's just a digital led evolution of that model. So it makes sense. It was it's big and heavy. So that's probably something there, even though on the marginal revenue side, that's not particularly valuable with respect to wine, for example. But still, that's interesting.
Very cool. I've seen it in coffee and tea, like doing subscription-based like coffee businesses. But it's coffee seasonal, like especially high-end coffee is very seasonal. Makes sense. But the water, it's about the weight and getting the water in your house, and that's a problem sometimes. So I can see that solving a good problem. All right, so let's talk digital healthcare. So we have a WelMed, a platform that raised 5 million from Alchimia. Also, this is a fairly big player in the future of accessibility when it comes to patient and professional doctors. What do you think of this deal?
Well, this is one of the let's say trajectories of digital health in a sense. It's the digitalization of the hospital or the medical services, and WelMed is bringing it all together. So it's basically this, they're building this ecosystem, put it together, hospital, medics, doctors, patients, companies.
Sure.
I'm not surprised that this is coming. The hospital is like a bank, A bank is historically this big institution with a lot of products and services are bundled together, and they have been unbundled quite aggressively by startups. And the hospital is similar in a sense. It's a bundle of a lot of services and infrastructure and technology and machinery and professionals. And this is, something that it's a good candidate to be unbundled.
It's a great analogy for sure.
I see them as quite parallel in a sense. So this is happening. Makes sense.
Especially for also like first visits and home services, where either you can have like a virtual first sort of touch-based diagnostic, or maybe someone directly coming to you for like not an urgent like a care, like we saw with Epicura that started with home massage and so on and so forth. These guys are basically working on telemedicine very heavily, and that has the potential to be actually the first step of the future of hospitals, where the first step is really get your diagnosis first, or your first check digitally, and then probably move to the physical location. Mm-hmm. Again, unpacking, as you say, what has been happening like in a single unit, like forever. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And the other interesting bit from the investment in the news, let's say, is that this is just half of the round. So the company is raising a 10 million round. So there's some marketing in this news. And the second bit is we know Alchimia from last week because from a couple of weeks ago, probably, because they exited the Q Health.
Yes.
30, 40 times return on their original investment.
Yeah.
So again, they are liquid, or they will be so liquid, and here they are reinvesting in the digital health sector. So that's something that we're looking closely. If there are startups looking for digital health, maybe Alchimia, they have a good vision in that vertical.
No, for sure. Sounds like, given their strategy that is emerging, definitely sounds like. Very cool. So let's jump ahead a little bit. I want to talk about the 100, which I thought it was very, very interesting business model. And I didn't hear about these guys, but it was very interesting to read. So the 100 is a media company, which is essentially allowing people to invest in entertainers, or they actually invest in entertainers like VC funds invest in startup. That's their claim. Now, reading about this model is very interesting because basically what they do is they build companies where the creator, the entertainer, the Instagram personality essentially put their asset in, being it a brand or like some intellectual property or some rights to their creative work. And then the 100 sort of invest in that specific vehicle together, of course, with the creator. So it's a curious way to look into the future of entertainment.
Yeah, that's particularly cool. Actually, that's something so far away from my favorite verticals in the market. But if you think about it, you're right. I mean, there are so many entertainers, Gen Z in particular, on the modern social media, that grow as fast or much faster than a startup, than a tech startup. And they can explode in terms of revenues, followers, pipeline, customers, whatever.
Absolutely.
It makes sense on the surface. So
it makes sense. I'm curious though, but what about the monetization of this? Like how where is the exit? So
I would say, in my opinion, revenue sharing is one possible way. So there is no valuable equity here. There's a money-making machine that might last for a few months or a few years. And it might make sense to set up some kind of revenue sharing agreement.
Great point. Yeah, and essentially
that's my idea, or the way I would do it.
Yeah, people are trying to monetize on like creative work on social platform. So this is a great way to sort of pack everything into one vehicle, which can be an investable asset for sure. And again, I agree with you. There is a huge economy around the creators in general. So this is one way of dealing with that. So to get investor to bet on creators. There are other companies supporting creator like with some like financial credit card or financial form. I remember reading about a novel credit card company only for creators with special perks in terms of collaboration and deals of various kind. So there is an industry trying to actually cater that specific work environment. So the social media influencer in some way or another. This is sort of the investment side, and then you have different sides in terms of services and so on and so forth. Very interesting.
Yes, indeed. Nice.
Awesome. Let's talk about something that you probably know really well, which is Sidereus. Or at least you have an insight knowledge of the round. So as the audience know, Nicolo is part of Primo Ventures. Primo Ventures hosts Primo Space, which is one of the first fund in Italy investing in the space economy, and they recently invested in a company called Sidereus, where they raised about 1.5 million. So that's
yep. So to give you some more flavor, this is the 6th investment by Primo Space in a little bit more than 1 year. So they're going with a good pace. Co-investment with Primo Space. We have Cassa Depositi e Prestiti with their southern funds. This is a seed type of investment. So the company is currently developing and researching their solution. What I can say is that in this case, we have one of those young, visionary and crazy founders that you listen to them, you hear what they say, what's their vision, and you go for it. You say, Jack, I don't know whether you will be able to make it, but I mean, I have to be with you to see where you're going.
So do you know any, let's talk about a little bit about the product actually that they're trying to develop, because I was researching a bit, and the way I understand it is basically it's a unit that allows for sort of orbital trip without any external fuel. So it's a unit that can be launched pretty much like in a lean way anywhere, and it's very, very efficient. So it's
basically, I'm no expert, so I'm just, I hope I won't say anything stupid, but and in case the Primo Space team would correct me later on. But basically, the idea is to find a way to have a single stage launcher for very small loads. Right now, there are no single stage launchers. So everybody is using at least 2 stages. I mean, you have the first engine that lifts the spacecraft, and then the first engine separates from the spacecraft, and you have the second engine once you are up there. Okay.
Yeah.
And in this case, the idea is just one stage.
Beautiful.
And this is the difficult bit of the idea, and where they're focusing the research and development.
They have a prototype, or this round is done for purely like R&D and to get to a prototype? What is the stage?
I think they are in the pre-prototype phase, but I don't want to say something stupid again.
Interesting. So that's good. It's good because Primo Space, like we were talking with Raffaele a few episodes ago, it's really like ranging from sort of research project. We just started essentially like trying to get to a working prototype up to something which has been literally launched into space already. So it's the scope is wide, and the opportunities are definitely like as wide as the scope of the fund. Very interesting.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So maybe let's jump to some of strategic moves in the M&A / business strategy field, just to give the listener like some flavor of it. So Seco, which is one of the biggest, and correct me, Nicola, I think is one of the biggest IoT companies manufacturing IoT technology, is announcing an acquisition with I believe a German competitor. Huge acquisition of 180 million, and this is definitely in a phase of growth and try to get like expertise from their German competitor. Very interesting.
Yes, Seco was recently listed actually on the probably the Nasdaq. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's the Nasdaq. Yes.
And it's an Italian IoT player, not just hardware manufacturer, but also software and services producer and developer. And it's not a big cap company, so this acquisition is quite a huge one, because I believe it's higher than their market cap. So that's quite a big one. It's almost a fusion. And they are building this huge group by joining forces with the German competitor. But I would say that they are moving fast and they're moving very aggressively as a company. So this is not the first acquisition they make. I know for a few others before listing.
I see.
And actually, they were invested by Fondo Italiano di Investimento.
Oh, wow. Are they still in? Or?
I think yes. I don't know whether they exited from the investment after the IPO, but I believe they're still in, at least partially.
Very interesting strategy. Beautiful. All right. Next is another pretty much big play, which is Doctolib acquiring Dottore.it. So Doctolib is the French equivalent of Dottore.it, which is essentially like a platform where you can get connected to healthcare professionals. And they essentially not only acquired Dottore.it, but also have a huge plan of hiring about 500 people to develop the market. Again, this is like a growth by acquisition play. Very, very interesting for sure.
Yeah, that's not the first time they do it. If you go read the history, Doctolib has acquired and invested heavily when opening a new country. So we don't know how much it paid for Dottore.it from the article, but we know that they're planning to invest quite a bit of money in Italy. 250 million is no easy feat.
For sure.
And they're planning to hire 500 people from the article. So it's an interesting move. Again, in a market where digital health is moving fast, as we saw before.
Beautiful. So MotorK, we've been talking about MotorK quite a lot. My sensation is these guys are really like moving very fast. So MotorK is a platform that helps car retailers track inventory, sell car, do digital marketing. Is a suite of tools that can help essentially people in the car industry sell cars more efficiently. They are planning to go public this year on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. So with a raise, a big IPO, 150 million, and very interesting announcement for sure.
Absolutely. So this is probably follow the manual type of sequence of events, no? The listing, the IPO was originally announced as a rumor in June. I was looking at my past issues. So in June, the company was considering the IPO, and now they came out with the goal to complete it by the end of the year. And if you think about it, they just announced a few acquisitions across Europe, so it's perfect. The manual of the perfect IPO.
They're preparing the grounds. The grounds. They're good. They acquired stuff. And now it's time to go public. Very good point. Very good point, Nicola.
And as you said, it's a good IPO. 150 million euros. It's a nice, good amount. I'm looking forward to taking a look at their economics and their prospectus, I would say.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's probably, I don't know about, do you have any feeling about the IPO market? So is this window closing? Is this window
good question.
Will it be open?
So my first question actually would be, why the Amsterdam Stock Exchange then? Like why exactly that specific one? So it's an Italian company, and maybe they don't see the opportunities too much for like liquidity on the Italian side, despite the fact though that funds have been pouring money, foreigners have been pouring money also, the government has been pouring money. I think there is probably an opportunity, or another play would be that the people that are more sensitive maybe in the automotive industry are more prone to maybe not invest necessarily in Italy, but they're looking for a more international market. Even, we're still talking about Amsterdam though. It's not, I don't know. I'm just questioning why exactly Amsterdam and not other markets.
Well, I don't have an answer to the question, of course. Remember that Amsterdam is part of the Euronext.
Mm-hmm.
So Amsterdam, Paris, Berlin, Frankfurt, sorry, not Berlin. So there are a few international stock exchanges all together in this network. I think that Amsterdam is quite of a hot one in terms for tech startups.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask me why Amsterdam and not London, I have no idea. It might be that Euronext has some more interesting features than the FTSE. And
Makes
it's
sense.
better for this type of startup. But I got no idea. If anybody from the FTSE or from Euronext is listening and wants to jump in, happy to discuss.
Cool.
Then I was taking a look on Crunchbase whether so the timeline of MotorK. There are no ancient investors in the company, so there is I would perceive there is no pressure to exit, but still they raised in 2017 from 83 North.
Mm-hmm.
4-5 years ago. Yeah, there might be some.
So it looks very solid, though. It looks very solid, as you say, playing by the books, not like riding any hype. They're doing everything seems properly, at least. So step by step, with backed by solid investor that they stick with them. So very interesting way of moving. Mm-hmm. Awesome, very cool. All right, let's maybe have the last comment on the European Innovation Council, which is investing about 363 million in 65 selected startups, basically pushing innovation and research to a new direction. So I was checking how exactly this funding worked. Essentially, they're very much focusing on groundbreaking innovation, mostly from research, from R&D, or from university, or from research institution. And this is part of a bigger package of the European Union trying to push innovation. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, exactly. This is the new program that came after the Horizon 2021,
mm-hmm.
the Horizon 2020 program. And the goal is, as you said, to invest in those areas where private investors such as VCs find it harder to deploy capital because there's a lot of R&D, you are far from market, the technology is very unproven, stuff like that. So they are trying to fill a void that they perceive from the market.
Interesting.
The news with respect to the Horizon 2020 program, for anybody who's familiar with it, is that they are also investing in equity rounds, not just grants.
Mm-hmm.
So Europe is becoming a shareholder of your company. It's interesting.
That's interesting for sure. I mean, a great opportunity, and I mean, probably better than grants for them, for sure.
They can aim for a financial return at least. So if I remember well, that's not their main goal, but mm-hmm. Why not? I mean, probably the reasoning is, we're deploying money into something that we won't get to market. Why not have some return from it?
I agree.
That's good. And
awesome point.
As a final point, we have 2 Italian startups who who got selected for the EIC. Enginome and
indeed, and they are Enginome, SRL, and Voiceseed, exactly.
Yeah, Enginome is a bioinformatics startup.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, their product supports clinical analysis to mm-hmm. identify relevant variation and mutation when evaluating a patient, for example, for cancer, and identifying exactly the variant, the pathogen, the problem that the patient might have.
Interesting.
I think they are already on the market. I mean, they already
looks
have,
like, yeah.
Initial customers. There are two very smart guys from Pavia University, I believe.
Oh, wow.
I met them, and they are very, very good. And the second one is VoiceSeed.
Yep.
And I find that quite amusing. So a platform to synthesize virtual voice with the perfect intonation and tone of a natural voice. Mm-hmm. If I got it right.
That's correct.
I was not aware of this platform, so I didn't know that.
No, me either. Absolutely.
But that's kind of amusing
and focusing
scary.
On emotional sort of intonation. We're closer to replacing actors, closer and closer, between virtual reality and emotional, like voicing for human speech. It's gonna be a tough time.
Yeah, I'm thinking about deep fakes. That's another probably basic application for deep fakes. But again, it's also one of those things that will revolutionize Hollywood for sure. Mm-hmm. And also probably some parts of video communication, education, who knows?
I would say, translation, basically like a mutual translation, on demand, like immediate translation with a good intonation and not just a dictionary based sort of recording. So maybe that's the way.
That's a good take. So that's you can bring international communication to a new level if you are able to transfer the
simultaneously like your speech with different languages. Very cool.
This is a good one. Nice.
Very interesting. All right, Nicola, I think our time is up. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you everyone for joining, and I'll see you all next week on Mondays at 6:30. So Nico, thank you, and see you later.
Thank you, Giacomo. Thank you, Jack. See you everybody. See you in a week. Have a great week.
Bye-bye. Thanks.